Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch the show. As I always say, this is a psychology podcast and YouTube channel, so there's a pretty good chance that I'm going to get into some things that might be triggering to you. And so you want to make sure you take care of yourself and maybe not watch the episode if you are at risk of being triggered. Let's watch the show.
And the jealousy factor, she does have a very big jealousy factor. So that he called off the wedding, I'm kind of not surprised.
Okay. Natalie, do you think you're a jealous person?
I might be jealous, yes. I might be.
Okay, so as usual, Natalie shows a lot of differentiation and a lot of maturity and a lot of self-awareness by just saying, yeah, you know, I do have a problem. Throughout the relationship with Mike, she has been able to do that. She will make mistakes, and then she will take responsibility for them, and she is doing that right now. It's good. It's very infrequent that we will see, especially the way she just answered it without any caveats. She's like, yeah, I might be a jealous person. Yeah, that might be true. 2 thumbs up to Natalie. We can commend that. If everyone did this on this show, there would be so much less conflict, and maybe not very much to show on a television show. There would be a lot less conflict.
That he was going to call off this wedding and that he was going to give her money to go back to Ukraine and buy her a plane ticket.
Do you want me to go home?
I said...
I don't understand.
I called...
Please, you said your mom, you want me to go home?
No,
I don't understand.
I had no intentions of sending you home.
I know, but Mike...
So I don't know what the mystery here is. I'm surprised that Natalie would even ask the question. She knows that the night before the wedding, he called it off and wanted to send her home. Now, I'm guessing Natalie is upset. So Mike is sort of strangely obscuring that fact. All he has to say to Natalie in this moment is, yeah, at the moment, I was really in a bad place, and I had made I was contemplating whether or not we should get married, and I was thinking about not sending you home, but saying that we're at the end of the visa, you have to go home. But I'm glad that we got married because now that we're together. But yeah, that one night, yeah, I did call my mom, and I was looking for some support, and I did tell her that in the moment because I was in a really bad place. I don't understand why Mike just doesn't say that, but because of his vulnerability issues, or he just wants to avoid, or I don't know what's going on here, but I don't know what the mystery. Natalie is the one person on the planet that knows that Mike had a change of heart or some kind of issue about getting married and called the wedding off. She knows that, so I don't know what the mystery is here.
That's what your mom just said. She said you talked and you said you were going to call off the wedding and give her money to go back to Ukraine.
That was after she left, we talked. It wasn't before.
It was just days before the wedding when he told me that.
This timeline is just a little...
Okay, so that is different. That days before the wedding, he calls the mom and seems to be saying that he has some ambivalence about being married. We shouldn't be surprised about that either, right? That, I mean, we were surprised in the moment, but now that we know the full story, we shouldn't be surprised that all of his ambivalence about getting married didn't suddenly happen the night before or the morning of the wedding. We all understand that probably for a while he had been having some ambivalence about getting married. We all know that, right? It took him a while to even re-propose to her with the ring again. So in this moment, all Mike has to do is like, well, my mom's exaggerating a little bit, but it is true that I called my mom a few days before the wedding, and I was questioning things. I didn't know, but honey, I'm glad we got married. I just want to say that, like, at the time I was scared, but I'm so glad we got married. Like, that's all you got to say. And it clears up. Instead, what I think Mike is going to do is like, it didn't happen. None of this is real. And then Natalie's going to say, wait, what? Because the mom's going to reaffirm that she said that. Now, the other question I have is, why is the mom saying these things? Is she trying to sabotage their relationship? I don't know.
I think that's a good idea because you guys, your relationship is very sketchy when it comes to really getting along and maybe making it down the road.
So you wanted me to fly home?
No, I told her that I'm telling you, you want to leave.
Why would you do all this operation with money, go to bank? What was the logic?
Again, I don't understand what the mystery is here. Now, for Natalie, this is obviously, hurting, and even if she knows what happened and is acknowledging it, but it hurts, so it makes sense that she's like, wait, what? I don't understand why Mike doesn't say something like, yeah, at the time I was having a lot of ambivalence. We all understand that, everyone, right? I called off the wedding the day of the wedding. I didn't suddenly have cold feet the morning of. I had cold feet for a while. I was debating in my mind for a while, and I called my mom, and I was in a particular mood, but ultimately I decided I wanted to marry her and I'm glad that I did. Like, I don't understand why Mike just doesn't say that, but instead he's just going, and none of this happened. It didn't happen like that. And why would the mom lie about this? And he's not saying the mom is lying. Like, if the mom is really lying, he might say, no, Mom, you're lying. That's not what happened. I don't know why my mom's lying. He's not saying that. So this leaves this wide open door of distrust for Natalie.
Your mom said you
No,
want
it
to
was 3
send me
days.
home.
3 days, the same day you
I
left.
don't understand.
Then a couple days later, he calls me and he tells me, well, we're going to go ahead and get married. And of course, I was not happy about it. I feel like they fought and fought and fought all the time.
Okay, so that's interesting. Not only was she receiving information from Mike, but she was also offering her own opinion, which was she didn't want them to get married, which we seem to have seen earlier when she came to visit. She was kind of pressuring him to get married while she was in front of Natalie, but then when she was being interviewed one-on-one, she was like, I don't know if they're going to last. And we don't know, but there seemed to be this pretty high level of influence that the mom has over Mike. Because before the mom arrived, it was Mike saying, I don't want to get married. Then suddenly she arrives, the mom arrives, she's like, I think you probably should get married. And suddenly he's like, okay, let's talk about a wedding. And then he vacillated back and forth. And at some point, the mom was starting to say, I don't think you should get married. Was that part of the equation here? Now, you could say that the mom is meddling. Well, maybe, but I'm guessing based on the comments below that a lot of you would say the same thing, that these two should not get married. They're not bad people, but they're not compatible. Now, we don't know if they're compatible or not, but a lot of people commenting below will say, look, they should just call it off. Mike should date the hairdresser and Natalie should find a religious guy somewhere and they'll both be happily ever after. They're not a good match. So maybe the mom was right. And maybe time will even show that the mom was right in this moment because maybe they won't work out, Mike and Natalie. I could see a future where they don't work out. I hope they work out. I hope they go to couples therapy so that it can really help them with their relationship. But anyway, let's continue.
From Mike's mom, and she asked me if I would stand up. And while they were getting married, and when the preacher asked if anybody here disagrees that they shouldn't get married, stand up now. And she wanted me to do that. And I told her.
Wow. Same phase as Rebecca. What? Okay, so the mom of Mike is coming from, so her feelings are probably fine. Again, a lot of people would agree with the mom, I think, or at least a fair amount of people, that the two of them should not get married, that they should just break up, move on, date other people, find someone that's more compatible for each of them. So the mom had that opinion. Nothing wrong with that. But the mom's solution to that is to ask a friend of the family during a very small wedding to stand up and say, yes, I do object. And by the way, not every weddings, as a person who has officiated weddings, especially contemporary weddings, they don't ask that. It's sort of a thing from the movies that I don't know if a lot of people do. Plus, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, what are you supposed to do? Okay, does anyone object to this wedding? Because, or forever hold your peace. If someone stands up and says, yes, I do object to the wedding, what are you supposed to do as the officiant? Okay, well, it's off then. Or let the record show that Uncle David considers this wedding to be an abomination. Okay, it is duly noted, included in the wedding ceremony document. What are you supposed to do? It's kind of a dumb question. So, and plus it would really ruin the mood. Anyway, so the mom asked the friend to object during the wedding. What did the mom think that would accomplish? That Mike would be like, oh, well, if you object, then the whole thing is off. That's a very strange solution. to the problem. I wonder what they're going to say here.
Tamara said true. Did you tell her to stand up
yes.
at the wedding and object?
So what this also gives us a tiny little data point of is the mom's relationship with Mike over the years when Mike was very small. Is this part of the relational trauma showing itself that led to the way Mike is today? I don't know. There's really not enough data, obviously, to even begin to speculate. But the mom at least seems to be giving off some vibes of someone who doesn't respect other people's opinions, including her own son's wishes. So presumably at this moment, she's like, I understand that Mike is going to marry her, but I don't want him to marry her. And so I'm going to force the issue. And not only am I going to force the issue, I'm going to force this other person to force themselves on this scenario. And I don't care about Mike's feelings. I don't care about Natalie's feelings. Or I'm doing this for Mike or something. Again, more enmeshment and invasion of boundaries similar to what we saw signs of with Brandon. Is this part of the reason why Mike has what seems to be avoidance and what seems to be putting up walls? I don't know. It's interesting to see, though.
Day, and it's a total disaster. Why would you want to see two people get married when it's such a mess?
Okay. Again, I think a lot of viewers would agree with her. What's the solution to that problem? Do you do that, what she did? Or do you try to have a sit down with Mike, and if he doesn't listen to you, then you just say, well, okay, I said my piece. It's his life. Instead, she decided to do what she did, which I don't know what that says, but I'm guessing it says something about their relationship.
I know you are very respectful of your mom.
Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, you wouldn't be here if it weren't for her. You got to be very respectful. I just want to know, Mike.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
That is an interesting pause. Sean asks a very excellent question, one I would also, if I had my wits about me, ask if I were there with Mike. And we see a huge pause. What is that about? What's going on inside of him right now? There's just no way of knowing, but let's just take a guess and say that there's a lot of conflicting feelings inside of him. And maybe some feelings that have been going back since the day he was born. Who knows? But let's see what he says here.
I have mixed feelings about it. It makes me angry that she would do that, especially ask someone else to do it. I can understand her concern, but it wasn't right for her to ask someone else to do it.
Tamara, I want to know.
Okay, so it's a diplomatic answer. He says, well, yeah, I'm upset about it, but I understand her concern, but I don't agree with the way I'm guessing there might be more there. Who knows? But I'm guessing there might be more there for Mike. Now, he might not have access to those emotions because he learned to cut himself off from that a long time ago, but I don't know. It was an interesting response. And this is interesting. I didn't know we were going to learn about Mike's a little bit. We have a glimpse possibly into Mike's childhood. We, of course, have no idea, but maybe. And I always appreciate at least something to grab onto for some speculation. Again, it's just complete speculation.
I think that when she comes here and she wants to change everything about him and change his lifestyle and change who he is and what he does and everything else, I'm not real thrilled with that.
Okay, so again, I think a lot of people would agree with her. I've seen it in the comments. It's just her delivery of it and the decision that she made at the wedding and her seemingly having an agenda to break them up. It's one thing to have those ideas and to say, hey, I'm a little worried about you, son. She seems to be really trying to change you into a different person, but it's your life. So I think a lot of people would agree with her feelings and her ideas, but what do you do about that? That's always the question, right?
Because he's an adult and he can make his own decisions.
Exactly, I agree with you.
If she had done what you asked, you would have been stopping the wedding.
You're right.
And that's not your place.
If it was your child and you seen your child being treated badly and whatnot, wouldn't you not be happy?
Right. So I don't think I think the mom's delivery is hard to swallow, but I think the mom has all the regular feelings. What do we do with those feelings? And we've seen other people have similar feelings on the show. It's like, I don't like the way this person's treating my child. I don't like it. I love my child. I don't want them to be treated that way. And it was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago. I think we can remember some of the things that Natalie said to Mike was uncool and was, low class, low IQ. I don't want you to drink a couple beers with dinner. I don't want you to eat meat anymore. That's disgusting. I'm going to stare at you and judge what you're eating all the time. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that if you're Mike's mom, you're going to be like, I don't want you to marry that person. That person doesn't like you. They don't respect you. That's not nice. Those aren't nice. Who says that to your fiancé? Like, why would you say that to someone? So her feelings are, I think, justified. Now, of course, she doesn't know the other side of the story because she's biased for Mike, but she should be. Every parent, we expect them. We would hope that they would be biased for their own kids, right? But what do you do about that? What are you supposed to do? And I think that a lot of people, including Rebecca, and including maybe us watching, feel bad for Natalie. Natalie has just been through just some of the worst treatment that we've seen. Maybe not the worst, but some pretty bad treatment. The back and the forth and the dumping her the day of the wedding and just all that. It was heartbreaking to watch. Just horrible. The position she was in with the pandemic and we just all feel bad for Natalie. We can all agree on that. And so I think that Rebecca naturally feels bad for Natalie. And I think Rebecca right now is about to blast the mom. And I think Mike's mom's question to Rebecca is a valid one. It's like, if you had a son and you saw him being treated badly, I think you would have at least had the same feelings as I did. Maybe you wouldn't have reacted the same way. But anyway, I hope that this doesn't escalate into a typical tell-all where everyone's yelling at each other. I think everyone's coming from an understandable place. The mom made a mistake. Mike didn't listen, and the friend Tamara didn't listen. And everything worked out. So I hope they don't hurt each other too much right here.
I have 3 grown children. I have a son. I would never do that. I would never try to object to his wedding. He's a grown-ass man.
Exactly.
Right. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Of like, okay, fine, you had some concerns, but to try to force your will during the ceremony, force your will on someone else to force their will through you onto the ceremony, no, that is totally uncool. Why would you do such a thing? Yeah, I think people can agree on that point for sure.
How you doing? Are you good?
Okay, we've seen this before where Mike is coming from a good place. He wants to connect with Natalie. He is concerned about her, and he might even be worried about Natalie going down a road and being upset and rejecting him. And so we could all understand that. We've all been there before. And his way of expressing those feelings, which are normal, is to say, how you doing? You good? Instead of saying something like, hey, honey, I want to apologize again for putting you through all that. I'm glad I married you. I'm 110% sure that I'm in the right place. I want to be with you forever. And in the weeks coming up to the wedding, I had cold feet and I was worried, and I've realized now that I was wrong. And I'm sorry that I put you through that. I wish I could go back. Yeah, something like that. But that's not what he's saying. What he says is, how you doing? You good? Why would you do that? Well, because to do what I said is to be vulnerable, is to set yourself up for rejection, which probably wouldn't happen. I mean, that's the irony of the avoidant person, is by trying to avoid things that will put them at vulnerable of being rejected, they actually create hurt in the other person that causes them to reject them, which gives the avoidant person more evidence that they need to avoid. You know what I'm saying? All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you don't know already, we have merch. You can use the link below, and we have all sorts of things there, mugs and shirts and pillows. My wife actually designs all of those things, and there's new things coming out all the time, so you can click the link below and maybe browse if you want. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.